It's time to lock in that final draft plan as the draft clock has begun ticking for league members taking part in the 2025 Fantasy MLR season. Some drafts already underway, some are about to get kicked off. Either way, we're going to get you ready for what you need to know heading into the upcoming year. We got some last minute draft strategy, some buy or sell on some of the hottest players, and of course, the latest news from around the league. The Fantasy Ruckers Show starts right now.
Where rugby and the world of fantasy sports collide. Welcome to the Fantasy Ruckers Show, bringing fantasy rugby to the masses, talking all things rugby from the MLR to leagues around the world. We're on top of it. Headphones on, pads off. This is the Fantasy Ruckers Show. Now, here are your hosts, Ryan Yee, Matt Yee, and Devin Vanderpool.
What's up, everybody? This is episode 140 of the Fantasy Ruckers Show. Thank you so much to our Fantasy Ruckers League members, our community members, and everyone else tagging along on this journey of making fantasy rugby a reality in the MLR. With you each and every single week, I am Ryan Yee. Matt Yee is here with me. Vandy is in the depths doing his final draft research ahead of a big draft we have, I guess, at the time they're recording this podcast, we have coming up when this is released tonight, which is going to be exciting. It is draft time. Like we mentioned at the top of the show, Maddie, it is the best time of the fantasy sports year in any fantasy sport, but especially in the fantasy major league rugby year. Drafts happening all over the place here in the Fantasy Ruckers Leagues. It's really exciting to see. Maddie, how excited are you to start getting your draft going?
I mean, hey, it's draft week. There's nothing more exciting. It is the only time in fantasy, well, all fantasy leagues, where you have the most hope.
It is true.
You know, this is the highest you will feel for every fantasy team, and specifically fantasy MLR, because, you know, once you get into season, curveballs just get thrown your way. But yeah, cherish this moment, embrace this moment, put it in a jar, frame it, hold on to it for dear life, because it doesn't last forever.
It doesn't. And I don't think I could have put it any better than that. It really is the most optimistic time of the year, Maddie. When it comes to picking these guys, you think by the end of your draft, right? More or less, outside of, when you get maybe a little bit tilted when you're on the clock and someone stole the pick ahead of you, you usually are at the end of the draft like, you know what? I have a really solid team. I think I'm going to win a championship. And then things do quickly turn as curveballs, like you said, do get thrown your way throughout the season.
Yep, that's for sure. But hey, we don't have to think about that yet.
No,
it's draft week.
It's draft week.
We got the listener league draft, like you said, Rye.
Mm-hmm.
We got our draft. I don't know if you've announced, but our team fantasy rucker draft coming up tomorrow. That's going to be live. And you're going to see the brains of Vandy, Ryan, and I try to figure it out, and also just watch us start up here and either go up like this or slowly figure out that our draft is going to be blowing up. But
we're taking the rocket ship mentality, Matt. Rocket ship mentality. It's just up and to the right. Up and to the right. But yeah, I mean, to get everyone ready, this is going to be a fun episode to break down kind of the last things that you need to know as your drafts are happening or as the drafts are about to kick off. I know we have a bunch of leagues.
And some updates, Rye, from, first, I guess, 2 weeks of preseason. We got some insights, some last minute things that we can provide before you're heading into your local drafts, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So we got that all in this episode, everything that you need to know. We got a little bit of the TFR Betting Challenge towards the tail end of the show, and also an exciting announcement with a partnership that has renewed here with the Fantasy Ruckers, which we are going to touch on towards the tail end, that I think is going to be a lot of fun this season. But let's get right into it, Maddie, because we have no time to waste. But before we do, like we say every single episode, if you aren't already, follow us at the Fantasy Ruckers. Handles are up above if you're watching on the YouTube video, down below in the description if you're listening on the pod. We do appreciate the support, like, subscribe, do all that good stuff in helping us make fantasy a reality. You're gonna need it, everything that you can get, let me tell you, and we got that all for you here on the Fantasy Rucker Show each and every single week. Waiver wire breakdowns, top players of the week, looking ahead to starts of the week, all that good stuff, that'll all be there, and you'll want to be first to know when it comes to all that stuff, especially for those those of you who are in a league, especially trying out for the first time at the Fantasy Ruckers. I'm sure a
And
lot of
because
you,
I'm in my bag, people, I'm in my bag all year long.
it's true.
And the only way that you can have premium access to my picks is by following us on all the socials, joining the Discord, watching the videos, commenting, all that stuff.
It's right here on the Fantasy Ruckers
There's
show.
3 year. There's
Absolutely.
a 3 year example of me being in my bag.
3 year. We're knocking off this. I will say, for context, for the people listening, this is our fourth year. Matthew will soon
Oh,
forget
hey,
what happened in
hey,
that first year that he
yes.
tried it out. But either way, I know a lot of our listeners who are league members this year, whether they're returning and trying out fantasy MLR for a second time, or if it's their first time trying, they are already in our Discord community. That has been popping off over the course of the past several days as leagues are drafting, as chatter is increasing with all the preseason matchups. It's been fun over there. If you're not in our Discord yet, the link to join that is down below. Fun group of people we have over there that is filled with people who are in leagues, who are not in leagues, who just like to chat MLR. Really, really fun stuff there. And you also want to be checking out thefantasyruckers.com. That is the official website that we use as our platform for fantasy MLR here on the Fantasy Ruckers show. That's where all of our leagues are housed. Big updates are coming on for that website for the upcoming Fantasy MLR season, which is a lot of fun. AKP is hard at work getting all that finalized ahead of kickoff in less than 2 weeks time, which is very, very exciting. All right, Maddie, with all that being said, you ready to hop right into it?
Let's do it.
All right, let's go.
News dump.
All right, it is time for the TFR news dump, and that is where we go over all the latest news and notes from around the league, the latest happenings in Major League Rugby. When it comes to signings and roster additions, Maddie, it looks like we are all but done, finished that. Really,
Well,
no more announcement. Teams are finalizing or releasing their
yeah,
rosters. I know the New
not
England
all of
Free
them.
Jacks, not all of them, but the New England Free Jacks came out with their roster. The Utah Warriors came out with their final roster over the course of the past week. NOLA showing up. Some of the other teams even came out with a more concise version of their roster release there
Yeah.
as well.
Actually, Utah was the best one.
You
I
think
thought.
so?
I thought.
Yeah.
I mean, the way that they did it by releasing, I think they released it in the format of the way that the positions are on the field. I believe in their Instagram they had like 20 different pictures and they did each one a format. I don't think it was on their Twitter or anything. I think it was just on their Instagram. But that was interesting. I thought that was really cool and well done. So yeah, good for them and good for the teams, and for the teams that haven't released it, Old Glory DC, maybe figure it out. I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
try to figure it out. But
I will
Ryan,
say though, we have most of the roster in the player database. We have most of the players that are
yeah,
in there. So I think everyone that you are expected, barring any last minute signings that of course we have seen before in Major League Rugby. I think we know who will be suiting up for who this upcoming 2025
I
season.
do know that Old Glory DC did confirm, I guess, some departures. Stephen Longwell, Tyler
Mhm.
Rowland to be some of them. William Talatena. So confirming they're not coming
Mike
back.
DeBoulis.
Yeah, Mike. Yeah, chicken. Rather than just putting out their roster, they decided to just tell us who's leaving. That seems a little backwards to me, but hey, you do you.
Either way, I think we, again, like I said, I think know more or less who will be suiting up this
Yep.
MLR season, which is very, very
Enough to
exciting.
draft on, that's for sure.
Enough to draft on, that is for sure, which we will touch on in terms of we have a little bit more clarity in terms of who is where and how they'll be matching up, especially after the preseason matches that we've
Yep.
seen so far. We'll dive more into some of the thoughts on specific players when we get into our preseason warm-up on draft strategies
Yep.
and some maybe revisionist history from our top five that we have released over the course of the past 2 weeks after seeing some of these preseason games. But on top of the fun Fiji and Drua versus Rugby LA matchup that we saw obviously and broke down last week, we had some other ones. Wasn't sure if you could catch these out on broadcast.
Nope.
I wasn't able
Nowhere.
to find them. I just saw
Nothing.
pictures and the
You get
final
highlights
results.
and pictures, and that's it. And like a really bad form of this is what our starting lineup is from some of the teams.
Yeah. Either way, we did have a matchup between Houston and NOLA, and as well as a matchup between Chicago and Anthem Rugby Carolina. Houston ended up beating NOLA, and Chicago ends up beating Anthem Rugby Carolina, I believe, 35-30.
Yeah.
We got a
That
glimpse
second
of
one
kind of,
was Ryan, that second one was literally played on.
I was
I don't
gonna
know what it
mention that.
was. I don't
I
know.
was
I
like,
don't know
well,
if it was grass. I don't know what it was. I'm not sure what it seemed like. It was just not sure.
it it
I don't even know how to
it
explain
looked
it.
like to me that either A, they were playing in the desert, or B, someone just took the pictures and sucked out all of the color except for
Yeah,
the
I
jerseys and
had
used some
no
sort of
clue.
filter. It did look pretty wild. Either
It
way,
did look pretty wild.
there were pictures that there was proof that preseason matches were
It
played.
did happen. And Ryan, I think you might have missed it, but San Diego, I think, beat LA 40-38.
Yes,
Uh,
yes, yes, yes,
yep,
as well. LA's cramming in that second one after playing in Fiji,
yep.
which looked a lot of fun. A lot of social posts. Friend of the show, Andrew Coe, looked like he had a blast over in
You're playing
Fiji.
at 15.
Um, yeah, yeah, which some
More
draft
to talk
value
about.
there. The more to talk about. So again, lots of fun stuff. Preseason started. There'll be, I think, a handful of matches that are coming up here: Houston and Chicago on February 8th, and then Seattle and the Seattle Seawolves and Seattle Rugby on February
Who
7th,
cares
at
about
least
that
that
one?
we know of. So we shall see. Again, nothing
Uh,
really from a video standpoint to break down, but Maddie, from the pictures, were you able to
no,
extrapolate
I
any
couldn't
data?
extrapolate anything. Anything that we talk about, we will talk about in the preseason warm up as we get into some specific players. I got some ups, I got some downs to talk about some guys. So you're going to want to stay tuned in for that. I do have some news though, Ryan.
Okay.
Um, Nick Sushan. I know we love
Hmm.
keeping up with former MLR guys. Nick
Yes.
Sushan is actually playing preseason with the Wellington Hurricanes.
Hey.
So that explains his departure from Utah. Good for him. Congratulations to him. We'll see whether he makes the final squad, but I do not remember seeing him um, on the roster lineup. But he's there for preseason.
Yeah.
That's awesome. We love to see it. The other thing, Ryan, you might be interested in this. Super Rugby released the rules for their fantasy rugby
Mm.
game, and you will be pleased or maybe disappointed to hear that it is unfortunately the very much European style of
Mm.
fantasy, salary cap, captaining, transfers, and no kind of head to head type matchups.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, still awesome. It's safe to say that Ryan, we are still the only North American style fantasy rugby league in maybe the globe. I don't know.
No, I no,
Um,
that's claim and book it right there. We are
there we
that's
go.
the accurate representation. Accurate.
And so yeah, if you want to keep going, keep riding with us because we're the one and only.
One and only. I love it. I love to hear it. I mean, um, it would be interesting to see when maybe there is another one,
I
but
am
that's not surprising.
yeah, I am gonna dabble in that super rugby
I think I'm
fantasy
going to
though.
dabble into. I mean,
I think we might
I
as well start a fantasy Ruckers league with a bunch of people
outside of MLR, of course. Super Rugby
outside of
is I think our favorite league to watch. Outside of maybe the international test, but Super Rugby
yeah,
is the cream of the crop
yeah.
when it comes to club rugby. All right, cool, Maddie. That's some good updates there. But do you know what I have? Do you know what I have, Maddie?
Got a trumpet.
I have some updates of my own.
Probably a jester too. That's what we need. A jester. You need a jester, Ryan. How much of a joke this is.
Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye, hear ye.
Hear ye, hear ye. Here is Supreme Commissioner Yi with a Fantasy Ruckers League update. Maddie, this is not a joke. This is actually quite serious.
Okay,
This I think is probably our second most important commissioner update that we've had all
okay,
year long, outside of the one we had a few episodes ago with the
cool.
call to action. But I just want to say thank you to the people. Thank you to all of our listeners, and thank you to all of the people who have registered for the 2025 Fantasy MLR season. Final numbers are in. So registration is closed. Drafts are happening. Drafts are set to kick off this week.
How many leagues you got, Ryan?
We got 7 leagues this year, Maddie. That is a
Including
including
X.
ours, that is still a
Okay.
2 league increase than what
Wow.
we had last year.
Look at
So
us go.
we're
And people are
growing.
making money this year.
People are making money this year, even upping the ante than what we suggested. Like we're talking about
Jeez.
high
Where are people
rollers
getting
here.
all these money?
I don't know. I don't know. I funnel all mine into this thing that we have, the fantasy ruckers. Like we're funneling it all in here to give people some enjoyment. So people, I'm spending money for people to make money.
There we go.
I mean, it's a good
You're
investment.
for the people.
I'm for the people. Exactly. That's why I'm the supreme dictator commissioner.
Ah, all right.
Either way, thank you again to all those who registered. We're super excited for this upcoming season. Again, like I mentioned, a bunch of leagues have begun drafting. We've actually already, Maddie, have had our first draft completely wrap up. They actually did the slow
Jeez.
draft format,
Doesn't
and
sound
they
very slow.
no, they finished up, I think, 13 rounds in the first day, and then finished up the 2 rounds this morning. You want to take a wild guess on who was the very first pick
It's
of
definitely
the
Steven.
very first draft? No,
Def
who
Oh,
picked
who
it?
was the first pick?
Who's the pick
Oh,
overall?
oh, probably Kunatani.
It was Jason Putros
Okay.
was the first pick overall.
See,
So
this is what happens, Ryan. We do these mock drafts and nobody listens to us.
well, I mean, to be fair, we did talk about the fly half emphasis this season. Patros in our mock draft went second overall.
Fair
And
enough.
I think there's something there. I think people want to make sure that they have that kicker. So, yeah, very interesting to see a bunch of other leagues are continuing their draft. Matt, we have our listener league draft that's going on basically right now. I went with my second pick here, Vandy, of course, who's in the books, preparing for the upcoming draft that we have coming up, I guess tonight, when you guys listen to this podcast, is with our stream members, which we'll talk about in just a sec here. But he had the first pick in our listener league and went away with Semi Kunatani. I had the second pick when Jason Putros. Matt, you had the fifth pick. A little bit upset that your marble got jettisoned in that video for the draft,
Yeah,
determining the draft order.
it seemed kind of rigged.
Our very own community moderator does a fun little thing where
Seemed a little
he
rigged.
uses the marble simulator to decide draft order, and Maddie's marble um, just launched itself off of the
Wasn't the
track.
first one
So
off the map, all right?
no, you weren't the first one, but either way, Devon Rousseau, Matt, was your first pick, which I think is a pretty good steal at that fifth pick. Anyway, so a bunch of other drafts are happening, super exciting stuff. And talking about that, like I just said, we'd allude to, is our live stream draft that is coming up for our main
And
OG league this year.
yeah, and it's always a good time. We love, I mean, most of it is just everybody comes on and I don't know, does a poop emoji. That's been the thing for the past 2 years. Fitzy loves starting it up. But no, it's a good time. Draft with
It's
the
because
boys.
dude,
You
well,
get to hear,
for the people, Maddie, explain why you are synonymous with the poop emoji. Why?
honestly, I can't even remember anymore.
Okay,
I just
so
feel one with it.
for context for our listeners or brand new fantasy Ruckerians, is that a thing we're coining?
I don't know.
That word?
But was it because I
Um,
stunk?
so
Oh,
I
yeah, I was
released
seventh.
in the very first year, in the very first year, I released the final standings of our league, and I gave a
Uh,
trophy for in the social media post, a trophy
yeah.
for the guy who finished first, and then I put a poop emoji beside your name for finishing last, and that just caught on, and now everything that you do is branded with poop emojis.
And
So
that's okay. That's okay. I'll take that
you're
one.
embracing it. You're
I'll
embracing it.
embrace it. But yeah, I mean, look, it's going to be a couple hours of good banter.
Hmm.
Uh, and then also you'll hear some of our, I think, Ryan, because we are kind of only doing one pick as a group,
Yeah,
we'll get to
yeah.
break down some of the other picks a little bit more and really talk through those. And maybe it'll be able to advise you on people who have your drafts after
Yeah.
the live stream.
I know there's at least one league that is waiting for after a live stream to kind of use us as, I guess, guinea pigs to see kind of how
Cheaters.
things break down for us. But Matt, you nailed it on the head. I guess some info about our main OG league. We have some exciting brand new members that are joining our league this year. Some massive community contributors that we always like to include in our main OG league. We have the additions of, or I should, you know what? Let's give a shout out to the people who are departing to kind of raise a glass up for the people that have been a long
As we go
time.
on,
Derek
we
Brissett of LaRouche Rugby
remember
is no longer
as our
um,
times
in our
were
league anymore. There was an impounce with LaRouche Rugby.
everywhere,
Where you're going to get his copyright, Matt. That's too good.
and lives change
um,
from
and there was an announcement from LaRouche
wherever
Rugby that Derek Brissett
we
was moving
were
on from his
still,
responsibilities there. So he is no longer in our league.
henceforth.
And our very first champion, Maddie, is no longer with us. John, your good friend
It's
from
been a
Vancouver.
long day without you, my friend.
Hit it, Maddie. There you go. That's good.
Yeah,
Um,
he's moved to the UK, so it's a little bit tough for the guy.
John's no longer there, but with that being said, we have some new additions coming in and some great ones to add to that. Our very own Nick Johnson, our analytics guru, is joining our league. We thought it'd be only right to have the entire
Yep.
Fantasy Ruckers crew as part of our OG
Ready to
league.
lose.
And then we also have additions of Gift Igbulu. I hope I'm saying that right. He is joining us. You might have heard him from Gift Time, Rugby, and all the other endeavors that he does. He
He's
also
on
makes
rugby wrap up a
appearances
lot too.
with Matt McCarthy. Yeah, I
I'm
believe
a
it's
bit
the
worried we're getting too many rugby wrap up guys.
is that so? We're up to two.
We might
Well,
be. I mean,
John Fitzpatrick
unless
Rugby Morning does make regular appearances on MLR Weekly
yeah,
Rugby Wrap Up. So
unless if we can get JBL, Ryan.
okay.
I don't know if you remember playing WWE SmackDown versus
Mm-hmm.
Raw,
Mm-hmm.
but I used to beat up JBL with John Cena a lot.
um, I guess on top of that, we also have the addition of Great American Rugby's Lance Kavanaugh,
Let's
who
go.
has already said he knows he has the first pick in our OG league, and he's already said he knows who he's going. He did a nice
Yeah,
little
who is
post
it?
on Instagram. He hasn't told us, but he says it's locked in,
Probably
and he
someone
knows who
dumb
he's going. So,
like
uh,
Tuna Tawny.
I don't think that's that dumb of a pick, but I would argue that's good. But in his first year, he's got the first pick. We'll find out tomorrow. Again, that is 6:45 p.m. Eastern Time, Tuesday, February 4th. If you're listening to this podcast, tonight is when we are live. Again, like Maddie said, it's a good time, good fun banter between all the lads that have been longtime TFR members and also the brand new ones as we go through it. And because of the additions, we've had to break down our team. Matt, you, myself, and Vandy typically have individual teams up to this point, but in this fourth rendition, I believe fourth rendition of the Fantasy Ruckers League, we are joining forces. You know the
It's a concern.
animation. You know
It's a
the
concern.
animation that happens when the Power
When
Rangers all lock in and they are the different parts, and there's the head and the arm, and they all come together and form a one big Megatron thing.
yeah,
You picking up what I'm putting down?
I am, but all I
That's
can think
us.
about is the Key and Peele Power Ranger skit.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so if you haven't seen it, go watch it. But yeah, no, I'm a bit concerned because I mean, like obviously I'm the brain at the top. You're
I
like
knew you were
the
gonna say it.
arm or something, but then we got Vandy who hasn't passed 500, and he's kind of like the dead weight that we just drag on the ground. So I'm a bit concerned with that one and what we're gonna do with that. So we'll see.
We
It'll
will
be
see.
good.
It'll be interesting.
I think it'll be a really good time, and I think it'll allow us to be yeah, I think it'll make I'll make our segments on the show and we talk about even more interest because we're all invested
We're all
in losing.
invested. We do have
Um,
individual teams still in our
yeah,
listener league.
yeah,
Again, we have opened up the listener league. It's a brand new league that we've started this year. The winners of each and every single one of the leagues are going to be entered into the listener league automatically to get a chance to take on myself, Vandy, and Maddie. So that's where we will have our individual leagues in there. So a way for us to continue that friendly competition between us
yeah.
three on the show while also teaming up here in the main OG league. So
And
again, yep, Maddie.
no, I was just saying before I move on, we do have to shout out Hokie Ryan. I know he wasn't as active, but he was with us from the beginning.
That is
Got to
true.
shout out Hokie.
That is true. From the Excel days, Excel
From the
spreadsheet
Excel, he
days.
was there from the Excel day, so I will shout out him too. And I know, yeah, I ran out of songs, so Hokie, I'm sorry. Those are the only
So
two. Those are the only two sentimental ones that I know.
final list here, we got Nick Johnson, our analytics guru, Stephen Lowen, our community moderator, a fantasy Ruckers team, Eagles overseas, Bill Baker,
Let's
Rugby
go.
Mornings, John Fitzpatrick,
Ooh,
Rugby Wrap Ups, Matt McCarthy, Gift Time, Gift Egbulu, and then also Great American. I should get this right. Great
jeez,
American.
Ryan,
I know.
figure it out.
I know. Great American Rugby, Lance Kavanaugh. So
Let's
we
go.
have those eight people. And here again, draft time is 6:45 p.m. Eastern time, Tuesday, February 4th. If you're listening to the pod, that is tonight. Tune in. The link is on our socials. We'd love to see you there. Comment, have fun with us, join us. It's going to be a blast. And we'll
And
see the championship team that we draft here.
and we're gonna get off to a hot start. So Be there or be square. Be on time. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. 6:45 p.m. Eastern Time, Tuesday, February 4th. All right, you ready to talk a little about draft, Matt?
Let's. I actually got a lot to say.
Preseason warm up.
I'm sorry for people who are already drafted, but I've got a lot to talk about.
All right, so preseason warm up. This is our last, as I said, final draft plan heading into this week. For those of you who
Mhm.
are in the middle of their drafts or about to draft, the strategies and thoughts that we're taking in to our live stream draft that is happening tonight. So we wanted to first, Maddie, to talk and begin with kind of opening draft strategies heading into this one. We'll keep this short, kind of some quick tidbits that people should keep in mind heading into their drafts or as they are picking their players. I'll start off, Maddie, and I think the biggest one for me is draft composition. Right? Big word there. Draft composition.
Wow.
I think when people are drafting their teams, again, when we went through the mock draft, I think there was a conversation that got brought up by this. But as you go through these players, it's not just about, picking best available or just positional need. There's also a game within a game when it comes to certain players and their archetypes, even within those positions. You
Hmm.
got players like Jonah Moe, who kind of was a back row player that was very explosive for you at times, and can get you those big points, and sometimes had that lower echelon basement that maybe gets you the lower end 9 to 8 points. Or you could have a guy like Dan Creel. I obviously not back row, but center player who just consistently 12 points, 14 points, not anything above 20, but nothing below 8, consistency. So you want to have a good mix of these players on your squad. So if you go with your first pick, you go with your second pick, you seem to have guys that are explosive and have this high ceiling. You want to make sure you mix in some Dan Creels, mix in some guys who are consistent. If you have a nice balance of those two types of players, you're going to do well this season. So again, first overall, balanced draft composition. That's my first tip for the people.
Wow. Good tip, Ryan. Good
All right.
tip.
What about yours, Maddie?
Uh, Look, I mean, for me, I think it's before you head into your draft to prepare, prioritize your positions. Prioritize where you want to get value and where you're okay with dropping off the value. Um, I think for me, the way that this looks for me is I'm usually a guy who prioritizes center and back row. Those are where a lot of the points come from. Those are where you can get a really high point advantage. And it's also where you can really miss out as well if you don't prioritize those high scoring positions. So prioritize some of your values, understand which positions you want to or are potentially okay with reaching for. Um, because that'll help set you up for a bit more success and ensure that you're not panicking at the end to try to fill spots with guys late in the draft, because there are positions that you can definitely fill guys with late in the draft. Positions like scrum half, positions like front row, positions like second row, and even debatably, if you look at back three, it's so deep that you could potentially even give up there. So, yeah, that's kind of would be my tip and my approach to the draft this year.
I'll give everyone one more strategy on my end. First, I guess this ties into thank you to everyone who bought the TFR draft kit. It was our first time releasing this. We had a huge
Just a
response to
plug,
that. A
Ryan.
lot of people, no, because people can't. I mean, if you want to buy one after the fact and print it out and use it as memento, that's great. Or if you haven't had your draft yet, purchase the draft kit,
You
$5. You
should.
can hit me up and get that available to you. But as people are sifting through their draft kits, or if you don't have a draft kit and if you're using the player database that was offered to you through your draft boards, I'll keep everyone on notice when it comes to it's not just about pure rankings or pure points.
Yep.
There are tier bases here, and I think this ties into what Matthew is talking about. Is once you pass a threshold of a certain archetype of player, there is the ability and the thought. And if you're struggling on deciding between should I pick this guy or should I pick another guy, look at where you are in that tier base. An example is outside of the top kind of handful of fly halves. You get away from the Putroses, the Hodgsons, the Tim Sweels, and you kind of drop off there. Just know that the urgency to maybe reach for another guy is not there. And you can maybe pick a guy that's in a higher tier. I think that where this applies the most is the second row position, right? You have guys like Frank Lahore, you have guys like Sam Gala, even Jason Dom, right? Once those three guys go, don't feel stressed that you're missing out on a second row player, right? Just go based on what tier and highest tiers are available for you and go by that because I think once you pass that tier of players and it goes down the list, the drop off in terms of who you're going to be selecting next after you go through a round of picks is not going to be as great. You've already missed out on that higher echelon tier of players. So as
Yep.
you go through your draft, keep in mind and maybe even try to tier players yourselves within those rankings so that you have a better understanding of who is available when, and it'll help you make that decision when you're trying to decide between two guys that you're not quite sure on.
Yep. And the last one from me is I think this is a cliche at this point, but very specific for fantasy MLR, and that is you will not win the league in this draft. The
Mhm.
draft is not where you win the league, but you can certainly lose it. Build your foundation, get the key guys early. Just know that Ryan, like a position you brought up, like second row, you might be picking it. Like Frank Lahore was a guy who was in our waiver wire
Mhm.
and got picked up, and he was the highest scoring second rower. You are going to find guys in the waiver wire. Don't panic if you don't get the guy that you need for some of these positions, but focus on just building that foundation.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. All right, well, let's get into our second portion, Maddie, of our preseason warm up, our final draft tips here as
Yeah.
leagues and teams begin to pick their players that will create that foundation here in the 2025 season. We obviously announced our top five picks. Over the course of the past couple episodes. 2 episodes ago, we started with our top five forwards. Last episode, we did our top five backs. And some things have happened over the course of that time. And I think there's been a lot of chatter on socials, and we've been getting comments since releasing those top fives about certain shifts that may have happened. And we agree in terms of some of those things and maybe disagree with some of those things as well. So we're almost going to have a little bit of a revisionist history here, Maddie, where we can go back in time here. We've obviously released our top five, so those are locked in for when we look back at them next year.
Yeah.
However, after a round of preseason matches, things like seeing, which I hate to see, Billy Meeks playing more and more at 10, which is something we saw last year and didn't work. But for some reason, Sam Harris has this thing about having Meeks start at 10. We've seen things with Maddie. You mentioned our Discord chat about Ethan Grayson possibly playing 10, which could affect things. We're going to go through our top five picks, or even guys that we mentioned in the course of the past couple episodes, and play a little bit of a buy, sell, or hold game, Maddie. So you're going to let me know in terms of certain players that fall under this buy, sell, or hold category. We're going to go through each of the positions and talk about this. So let's start off with the front row position, Maddie. We obviously have a wide list of guys that are in this front row that we are highly, highly sought after. Guys like Dylan Fawcett, guys like Andrew Quattrin, guys like Liam Coltman. Who falls under your buy category still that you're still very high on here in this front row position in some of these names? And it doesn't even have to be on your top five. Guys that you're just buying even from a later round standpoint.
Yeah, I think for me, the guy who has really moved up after this preseason is Ben Sugars.
Mhm.
To your point, Ryan, you did have him in your top five, but I think he's moved up for me. I am buying and hopping on that Ben Sugars train. I think he's going to end up in the top five at the end of the year.
All right. So Ben Sugars is your buy. Is there anyone that then you're selling? Can I assume then if you're buying Ben Sugars, are you selling Ben Strang?
I mean, I didn't have him too high up anyways on mine. Like he was in my honorable mentions. But I didn't necessarily have him too high up. I think maybe if we're really looking for a sell, potentially Taufetti. I'm not sure how much he played in that first match. But I don't really have too much of a sell
Uh,
necessarily in the front row.
all right. Anyone that you're kind of maybe people are sort of panicking about that you say hold, hold, hold? For me,
I
it's
mean,
Andrew. For me, it's Andrew Quattrin,
yeah, I was
right?
gonna
I
say
think.
that too.
Yeah,
I think Quatrin is a guy that you gotta hold. Like they're he's a staple to the team.
I think there's nerves around Connell McInerney about maybe his establishment in there. But again, yeah, to Maddie's point, we've seen what Q's done. He's been an established member of that team. I wouldn't be too concerned until we start seeing some matches here and see how that plays out. All right,
Yep.
let's shift on over to the second row, Maddie. Anyone that you are selling?
I mean, I'll be honest. I don't have too many storylines here at the second row. A lot of the things are staying the exact same for me at the second row.
All right, so just to give people a refresher, Jed Holloway, Sam Galla, Frank Lahore, Jason Dom, and Sam Carrot are yours there. For me, Matt, I guess because I didn't have him in my second row or had him as honorable mentions because of my concern of him possibly not keeping that second row eligibility. But Jason Dom, I mean, he started at the second row position in the preseason matches. He was electric last year, 141.3 fantasy points, finishing off as the second row. If he is going to play that position, he's going to be a steal for people in that draft, especially where people value him now. I think he's going to be great. So buy on Jason Dom, and we'll see kind of where that goes from there. All right, back row position there, Maddie. Any buy, sells, or holds that you're seeing?
Buyer for me, Ryan. You're gonna be surprised with this one. I've been pretty low on him, but I actually think there might be some room for Tui Fua to succeed on this Houston SaberCat squad. We did see some highlights from the Houston NOLA game, but from the limited stuff that I saw, it looks like they understand or they have some understanding of how to use him, and they're going to use him accordingly. So I think that for me, he's moved up in that stock a little bit. In terms of sell, I don't have a sell necessarily, but I do have a hold, right? I think for me, and this is just looking at lineup, I thought Kellen Galatier was going to be playing the 8 and Mo was going to be playing the 7
Mm-hmm.
because I believe Mo played a lot of either 6 or 7 throughout the year with, I believe, OJ Noah was at 8 a lot.
Mm.
But Mo was at 8 in the preseason starting lineup. To me, that's an encouraging sign for him. Anybody at 8 obviously has more opportunity to have the ball just from the base at the scrum, etc. Just yeah, and just with kind of the game style. So yeah, Mo, I am definitely on a hold here, and I do feel good about him in that second spot in the back row position.
The only guy that I have, Maddie, that I have will as a buy that I will say is Manuel Ardeo. He's a guy that was not
Yeah,
on my top 5 list or even honorable mentions list. I know, Maddie, you were pretty high on him.
he's a beast.
But he's a guy, yeah, that averaged a lot of points per match every single game, especially when he was rolling. And I think he's gone under a lot of people's radars because of the late announcement that he was joining Miami. I think there hasn't been a lot of chatter around him. If Manuel Ardeo is on your draft boards as you start to go later in your rounds, like this is a guy that I think can reach the upper echelon of back row players, and is a guy that you could probably get in the mid rounds just because the chatter is not necessarily there, not as much excitement around Miami. They're a team that hasn't really been announcing lineups, preseason stuff. There just isn't a lot of talk around the Miami Sharks, and I think that'll get lost. And I think Manuel Ardeo will kind of get lost in those draft boards. So if he's there,
Yep.
I say buy Manuel Ardeo. All right, let's go to the scrum halves, Maddie.
Oh, I got nothing here, right?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty solid on terms of what we got. Again, I think
I
we're
still feel
both.
good about Petrano. I think he scored another try, another quick tap try against San Diego.
Is that,
Um,
I guess, are you even a higher buy on him? Like, are
I mean,
you
I can't
even
get much higher than number one,
No,
but
but I mean, in terms of pushing his stock up the draft board, are you willing to draft him up there where people maybe were drafting guys like
uh,
Tusitala last year or
yeah, how'd
or
that work out?
Poland, right? But I'm
Yeah,
just
I
saying,
mean, look, like to me, there's just not enough points. Like he can be even Richard Judd when we look at him as the year that he had 2 years ago. He scored a lot of tries, got a lot of meters gained, got a lot of tackles, and still couldn't touch some of those other positions in terms of points. I personally, just my philosophy is to never overpay, especially at the 9 position. And I don't think Petrano is going to be an exception to that. But I think he can definitely make his way up some others draft boards where they feel it's very important for them to have the number one in that position.
I agree. I will say, I think this year is a year where I think punting the scrum half position, if you don't get a top guy like that, may be a way to go. So I don't know if it falls under this
I'll just
category, but
say there's a lot, Ryan.
maybe
There's a lot of quality this year. I
there's a
think
lot
at the
of
9 position. I think there's a lot of concern about starting position,
yes,
but there's a
yes.
lot of quality. And remember, like people do not have the bench especially with the way the lineups are. And if
Hmm.
you this is your first year experiencing fantasy MLR, especially with the way that things just work with the lineups and the way that things just work with having to hold guys on your bench,
Hmm.
people are not going to have space to hold an extra scrum half,
Yeah.
and people are going to have to make decisions. There will be guys available. There will be guys available in most cases. There's going to be more starting scrum halves than there are teams in the league, in your fantasy league.
How high
Uh,
how high are you on the handcuff strategy here? I've seen it happen as these drafts been going. I've seen the
yeah.
handcuff of I think the most common one has been the handcuff of Andre Warner and Juan D. Oliver. I think that
I
one's
mean,
been the most one. I have seen Judd and Tupai be drafted together almost in back-to-back rounds.
I did it last year. I did it the year before that. I did what Judd and Oxberger the year before that. I did
Hmm.
Warner and Carlo
That was a
Denician
cheat
last
code
year.
handcuff.
Um, and like I think I think depending if you don't get these top, let's say four guys
Hmm.
in the likes of Petranu, Poland, Short, and Denician, I think, or JP Smith. I'll throw JP Smith simply just because he has a solidified starting role there, and maybe Crowley. Um, I think you kind of have to go a handcuff.
Yeah.
I think once you fall to a certain spot, you just have to go a handcuff because you don't know what's going to happen the first week of the season, and you need to have the options available. But what I'll say is that you're going to end up having to come to a point where you're going to have to drop one of them.
Yeah, 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 especially when these buys start coming rolling in.
Yeah.
Um, definitely a situation that you'll have to monitor for sure. All right, let's move on to the fly half position, Maddie. This is probably the one
Yeah.
where we have between this and the center position where we probably have the biggest movement when it comes to the guys that we are high and lower about. So buy, sell, hold. Who's falling into some of those categories there for you?
I'm going to start with the buy. Uh, Maybe it's a buy slash hold because Ryan, you had him in your top five, but I think Laubser to me is
Hmm.
becoming a more formidable guy to start at 10
Hmm.
for this anthem and to be a guy who's going to contribute fantasy wise. He's got opportunity. He's got the better team. He killed it last year. And I think that he is just moving up simply because a guy who I'm going to get to is moving down. And that is Christian Lealifanu. I am worried about this makeup. It looked like I'll say that I wasn't necessarily in the back of my mind. I wasn't necessarily impressed with his debut against Fiji and Drua. He had a short outing for them,
Hmm.
and I am just a bit concerned of both with playtime and his impact fantasy wise. I have no doubt that he will be great off the tee when he does play, but the fact that we have seen or he we haven't seen him kind of starting and playing for long periods of time in this preseason worries me a little bit about what's happening,
Hmm.
and that's why I'm going to be a bit bearish here and I'm going to be selling on him.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thought here, obviously, how old is he? He's like 40 years old, right? I believe in his
Oh,
40s. I should
aging
probably,
the guy,
I should probably fact check that.
aging the guy.
I'm guessing. I'm
But
guessing.
like, I
Um,
don't think it's a bad. I just think he's a guy that's going to have to come with a handcuff.
all right, 37 years old. I shouldn't have said 40.
Come
37
on
years old,
now.
still older. Either way, I think the thought here, and it'll push us to the center conversation. It'll kind of link it in, but I think the idea that the pedigree that he has, plus at least on the depth chart before these preseason matches, the thought the only guy that they had on this depth chart for LA was Matt Antichev, and he was not a guy that we thought would be anywhere even close to competing for Christian Lealifano. What we have seen, though, is this Billy Meeks experiment, like we said at the top of the show, of him playing fly
Continues.
half again, continues. Obviously, Sam Harris
I
was
don't.
with the Chicago
Yeah.
Hounds. He's now, I believe, the attacks coach, I want to say, on LA.
To mess up the
And
lineup,
and
coach.
and he again, we sing Billy Meeks at that 10 position. But before we get to the center position, that's kind of what I think is happening with Leo Lifano. I think that
Yeah.
mixed in with that ability, being worried about the playing time he's going to be getting. I think he's still going to be solid, Maddie. He's just not going to be the upper echelon guy that I think like a lot of the guys that
Yeah,
are were on our top five list, I would take the guy start taking ahead of him. Like I take
yeah.
obviously
I
Hutchros
mean,
ahead, Hodgson, Laubser. I would take Swiel ahead,
I
Videla
mean,
ahead.
frankly, I got Robertson ahead. I got Laubser ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a lot of those guys ahead. I think the line probably cuts off once you get to Fouché, just because they're simply the same question of who's going to be the starting 10. Look, it wouldn't have been a concern if it just happened in the Drua game. I
Yeah.
think there is now concern, and let's kind of transfer over to the center position. There is now concern not just on the Leo Lafano side, but on the Billy Meek side. Like they
Mhm.
have Antichev. He's there. The fact that he started the preseason game at 10 against San Diego is
Mhm.
concerning when they
Yeah.
have Antichev. Let's say Leo Lafano was hurt.
Yeah.
Fine, that's okay. Or if they just didn't want to overplay him and he said, look, I'm not going to play in this one, fine. Totally get it. But the fact that you have Billy Meek starting at 10 rather than
Mhm.
Antichev in that position is concerning to me. And I think that this is unfortunately going to be a 6 to 7 week experiment of Billy Meeks going to be coming in at 10, starting at 10. Not sure what that looks like. I don't know. Week one could prove us all wrong. But the fact that there is some unknown with this, and we've seen how this has worked out for
Yeah.
his fantasy value, he's going to be a sell guy when it comes to the center position.
And that's the worrisome part, right? We've seen this before,
Yeah.
right? Like we've been on this ride. I drafted Billy Meeks last year with the thought that he was going to be a, stud center.
Yeah.
And we saw him at fly half and just the point production was not there. Of course, the thought is
It's
that
just
he's on.
natural. He's not going to get it. It's
Yeah.
not going to be the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, we talked a lot. Like, sorry, Ryan, you have nothing to add on
No, no,
Meeks?
no. I'm just saying. So I think I agree with you. I think sell Christian Lealifano. I guess we'll lead into the center position. Did you have anyone else that you would buy, sell, hold from the fly half position that
No,
you want
I
to
think we're
mention
good.
quickly?
We're good to move. I
Um,
mean, another like kind of segue into center position is McClutchy. Lincoln McClutchy for San Diego. I don't think he was on either of our top fives
yeah,
necessarily,
no.
but another interesting situation to watch because when you look at the preseason, Ethan Grayson,
Hmm.
historically center in the MLR, although played 10 for Newcastle, um, is starting at the 10 position. Lincoln McClutchy did come on. Lincoln McClutchy, I think, honestly, was perfect from the tee for San Diego. So that's good to see. But it's an interesting situation to watch again with, all right, Ethan Grayson, the center, who we've seen spurts of greatness from him in the MLR.
Hmm.
Do we have to be concerned about drafting him later in the draft? And should we even be looking at him, especially if he is playing 10 kind of sporadically?
Right. No, I agree with you there. So I guess then shifting over to the center position, I guess another center that's kind of entering the mix. So sell on Billy Meeks.
Yeah.
I'll get into a buy side of things. Dan Creel can't get any higher. I mean, like he's like as sure thing as it gets for me at that center position,
Yep.
especially with the Billy Meeks stuff. But for me, a guy that is really entering that territory, who I think I'm starting to wish I put higher on my list, is Junior Goffa. Like I
Yep.
think he's a guy that
He's
there's
moved to
no
number one for me.
there's no question marks around him, right? Like even when you go down the list, like Billy Meeks, we just talked about all the question marks there. Wayne Vanderbank, like I see him going on a lot of people's draft boards as the 1 or 2 pick,
Already in the
but
first round for us.
um, it's just hard to be comfortable with the depth that New England has there at that center position. And is Wayne Vanderbank going to be great for you when he's on the field? 100% yes, right? Or I shouldn't say 100%, nothing's 100%, but like 90% yes, right? Because we saw what he did last year. But there is a realm of possibilities where LaRue Milan, coming off of a year where he was obviously battling that crazy injury and now has had a full offseason to get rest, that he is there. Junior Goffa doesn't have that. And
Yep.
I am just so confident in what he's going to be able to do. I think this Anthem team is actually going to be pretty good. I'm not saying that they are going to be like, I think they'll make playoffs. Like, I mean, obviously,
Everybody
playoffs.
makes playoffs,
I
Ryan.
know,
That
I
doesn't
know.
mean anything in this
I know, but
context.
like, I mean, coming from a team that did not even hasn't even won a single game in franchise history, like I think this
Oh,
Anthem squad is really, really good, and I think Goffa is going to be a big proponent of that. And to hear
yeah.
that he's on number one on your board, I think only states further that this guy is a buy candidate in drafts this time around.
Yeah, I agree. I think another two guys, which wasn't even on our board for sure, who's kind of benefiting from this whole Billy Meek situation, Matthias Jensen and Nick Chan. I honestly like the
Hmm.
way that they played in the
Hmm.
preseason game, at least in the Drua game that we got to watch. I actually liked it defensively, but we don't track too much defensive. If you get beat, it's not like you get a minus. I mean, I think it was Matthias Jensen, but he tried to swat a stiff arm and just like smacked.
Hmm.
But yeah, I like those two guys are definitely moving up a little bit, especially yeah. I like them. But yeah, I think we've talked about the center position a lot.
No,
Yeah,
I think before we get into back three, I think Nick Chan is a sneaky guy to draft at the tail end of your drafts.
yeah.
Like
I mean,
his draft stock
the
might
only
go up.
the only reason I had Matthias Jensen a little bit higher is simply because regardless of what happens with Billy Meeks, Matthias Jensen is still going to play
Sure, sure,
because Billy
sure.
Meeks is going to play at 12, and I think Nick Chan has historically played inside center, and Matthias Jensen is playing that. And again, like people need to understand that just because you play inside center does not mean you can play outside center. There are two different worlds,
Yeah, yeah,
especially defensively.
yeah. All right. Moving on to the back three position. Buy, sell,
Ooh,
hold, Matthew.
Ryan,
I think
I got
interesting here.
I got a couple buyers here.
All right.
Got a
Tell me your
couple
buys.
buyers. I got Rory Van Voot. Buy.
Okay. Okay.
Buy. He's moving up the list. All right. He started both well, not the second one, but he started in the first preseason game. He looked good against Drua. I think they said, hey, we've seen enough from you. Don't need to play. Thomas Eoaki. I think you had him on your honorable mentions. I
Hmm.
don't know why we forget about him, but this guy used to be and still is an absolute stud. San Diego seems to still have that offensive firepower in the preseason. I believe he scored at least one try over the weekend. Aoaki, we cannot forget about that name. I think he's going to fall in drafts, but don't forget him when you're looking at your draft board.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I exactly what I saw that. I think another
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I'll just add my buy in here. I only have one. He's already on my top five, but I mean Andrew Coe. Like
Yeah.
buy Andrew Coe. I think you can't. I think the highest I've seen him so far in the drafts that have gone for us has been in the third round. Honestly, like if you have one of those middle round picks, like I am not, or even tail end of the second round, like picking Andrew
Eh,
Coe in that second round is not terrible.
depends how it goes. Depends how it goes.
I think out of the rotating room that is that back three room in LA with have so many players, I think Andrew Coe is going to be one of those staple guys that like Reese McDonald's going to come in late in the season. I
Fair
think you're going to
enough.
have questions with Rory Van Voot. I think Andrew Coe is going to be there the whole time through. We've seen what he's done with New York. We've seen what he did last year outside of that suspension. He plays those three games that he was suspended in. His point threshold is way higher than finishing off as the eighth best back three player last season, which
Yep.
means on the flip side, to go to the sell side of things, I think I want to sell Vogan Isaac's
Yep.
stock.
Yep.
I think you were going to say the same thing. The way that Rory Van Voot has been playing, Vogan Isaacs,
And we
fullback.
haven't seen him. We haven't seen him play.
Yeah.
I have no reason to believe that he's going to be there in the lineup on week one when we haven't seen him play once. So maybe I'll be they're playing again this weekend. Maybe I'll be surprised and maybe our things will change again. But at this moment, I have no reason to spend high draft capital on somebody I do not know is going to be in the lineup or not week one.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with you. Anyone else on your sells or even holds list, Maddie?
Uh nope. I think we caught everybody. I would just kind of recommend to people that like don't forget some of these guys.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's very easy to forget, especially in the back three, because the back three room is so deep. Like I was going through the list and I'm going through Xavier Mignot. I got Coe, Isaacs. We still got Trainer, Jade Steitling, Augsburger. We can't forget about him, even though he had a down year. Julian Dominguez, like Drew Wild, Tommy Milanos, Axel Muller. Like Axel Muller, I was looking, I was like, how did I even not even mention this guy at all? The
Yeah.
guy's an
Yeah.
absolute mutant. Just especially in some of these really deep positions in back three, just know how deep it is and know just the quality that sits that it's going to be there late in the draft. Um, yeah, back three specifically, I have a lot of faith in that in the back three to kind of be like, all right, I don't need to get unless I can get the top guy. I don't really need to spend.
Yeah. No, Couldn't agree with you more. All right, Maddie. So I think as people head into their drafts, again, good luck to all with the draft prep. Appreciate the ones who bought the or the draft kit there that help you out. Again, a great place to kind of mark some of these buy, sell, hold guys, despite their projections and things like that. Guys that you like, guys that you don't like. That's what I do. Going through my draft kit, I mark guys that I'm hot on, guys that I'm not so hot on. And just kind of go through there. And again, use all those draft strategies that we said towards the beginning, and then kind of apply those to these players that we've been talking about. And you should have a great 2025 draft for those of you who are still waiting to make the rest of your picks. All right, Maddie. We did have a little bit of Six Nations over the course of the
I
past
crushed it.
weekend. I guess we should talk a little bit about that in our TFR betting challenge.
TFR Betting Challenge.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, we have our
Here-
TFR betting challenge. Yeah, Maddie, I will say, Vandy and myself did not take your advice this
I
go
called
round.
every one of them.
You called every one of them, hit on all the lines. Fantastic job there. Fun to see Six Nations. I mean, we had some exciting rugby. The Ireland-England game was fun to watch. And it's nice to kind of get our taste
I
buds.
wanted Italy to win so
I
bad.
know, I know you did. I know you did. But there is more Six Nations coming up. Again, this is the TFR Betting Challenge brought to you by Betstamp. We've partnered with Betstamp to go through some of these odds and help you make a little bit of money here when it comes to betting on rugby across the world. And of course, when MLR begins, if you want to join in on the action, there's a link down below that we partnered with Betstamp to give people who listen to our podcast a chance to get some free bets at sportsbooks that are available in your area. You can do that down below. Helps out the show, and you get some free money for making some of these free bets. So it's a win-win situation, which is a whole lot of fun. Again, TFR Betting Challenge brought to you by Betstamp. So with that being said, Maddie, we do have more games that are coming up this week. I cannot wait to have the MLR slated in this segment here to start making
Mm-hmm.
some money on some MLR games. But until then, we do have Super Rugby coming up soon. That'll be timed up with the same time as the MLR,
Yep.
start February 14th. But we do have another round of Six Nations to head before that. So all the matches are on the weekend, 2 matches on Saturday, a match on Sunday. So Maddie, we'll start off with the first match at 9:15 Eastern time, Wales versus Italy. What do you think the line is there?
Oh, Italy's got to be favorites by 7, right?
Damn, you're getting good at this game. -7.5. Wales
Yep.
is getting 7.5 points here in the spread. Over under is 45.5. So I guess that would make what the projected score like 25 to 20, like something around there.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
know about that, but like I feel. Ooh, 7.5.
that's
Italy
tough.
versus Wales.
That's a tough one. That's a
That's a
tough one.
tough one. I would honestly, I mean, it's a battle for the wooden spoon, but I would stay away from that one. That's a tough one. I don't like. I mean, I'm tempted to hit Wales with the covers the 7.5 points, but still loses.
Wales
Um,
are 205 underdogs.
yeah, I mean, I would say Wales covers. I don't think they win though.
Okay. All right. But you're not confident in that one. You're
I'm not confident in that one.
All
I
right.
mean, this one's a tough one. There's a cup. Yeah, this one's a tough one, but yeah, I'm not confident in that one.
All right. Do you like the
I would
over under
maybe
40?
take Italy money line, but I don't think that's going to give you much.
Minus 200. Not too
You got to
bad,
you got
but
to parlay that with like
yeah.
a France win and an Ireland win.
All right. So maybe that's alluding to what you got here. France, England is the next match on Saturday at 11:45 a.m. Eastern time. What is the line, Maddie?
France favored by 12.
France favored 5.5.
5.5. All right. Yeah,
Five and
12
a
is a
half.
bit too much. 12 is a bit too much. I'll take France there. I'll take
Okay.
France there.
Over
I can see
under
them winning.
over under 43.5 points. So
43.5.
So that is a projected score of around, I
I
guess, like
like
25 to 20
I feel like
around.
under. I feel like an under there. But
Okay.
I don't like over unders.
Okay.
We're going France. France covers it. You can take either the spread, take the money line. I think they take
Okay.
both.
France -5.5. There you go. All right. Last game, Ireland, Scotland, on Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. What do you think the
This
line
one
is here,
has to
Maddie?
be what? This one has to be 12.
How confident are you in that?
14, 14, 14.
Final answer.
Yeah, final answer.
-5.5. Ireland.
What? That's
5.5.
crazy. How was I so off? Oh, I would take Ireland covering that too.
Okay. So you're
Ireland,
so
Ireland
you're
wins the spread there. Yeah, for
so
sure.
if you had to put your confidence
If
level
I
in
had to
here.
put a parlay, I would just do France, Ireland, both covering the spread.
All right. I might actually do that one. That Ireland does seem a little bit low on that for
And
five and
if
a
you
half.
want to do cheat, be real cheeky, put Italy money line, throw that in there. That could ruin your whole weekend though.
Yeah, imagine. Yeah, you got
At
lock in
11 at
France, you lock in
11:15 at
Ireland.
11:15 on a Saturday, your whole bet is
Well,
just gone.
well, no, yeah, exactly. Like it's just the first one is just out the window.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll continue our TFR betting challenge again. Vandy and I are going head to head once again. Vandy taking the best of me in our off-season betting challenge, having
So
beat me at the NPC Bunnings top 14 and Premiership. I will say, I'm going to mention it every single episode we have. I still have a future bet
smacked you.
of $2 on Toulon. And they are, I believe, third in the top 14 right now. So we're still hanging in there. We're still hanging in there. Uh, e
Alrighty.
Either way, we continue that TFR betting challenge here for our in-season portion, which will include Six Nations, will include Super Rugby, and of course will include MLR when it comes up. And this
Yeah,
week,
yeah.
Maddie's confident in Ireland over Scotland money, or Ireland over Scotland. Get the 5.5 points there. France, England, 5.5. Choose France there as well. All right, Maddie. To wrap up this show,
It's back.
don't have a fun little drop yet for this portion yet,
Doesn't
but
matter. It's back.
OvalYe with Vandy, presented by OvalYe, is back, everybody. We have partnered again with OvalYe to grow the sport of fantasy MLR. Of course, OvalYe has a little bit of a different setup than what we have. It's almost more of a daily fantasy type, format, very similar to our weekly challenge, which will be back this year, which we'll have more information on at our live stream and on our next episode. But yeah, you basically buy cards with real money and then you put together a lineup. And Maddie, I logged into my OvalYe account
Oh yeah.
to see what guys that I had, and I'm quite content with some of them. Still got Dylan Fawcett kicking, got Sam Tuifua kicking. Was talking with Vandy though, got Ardeo, and I spent a whole lot of money on Tarangatira Waitokia, and he's not
Hmm.
even in the league anymore. So
Uh-oh.
we're gonna have to revamp some stuff here, and go
I have
through
to
our
take a
lineup
look at my
structure.
lineup again. All I know is I got old trusty Jonah Moe, and he is back and ready to
Yes,
rumble.
yes, he is ready to rumble. So we are gonna have fun again. We're gonna have the OvalYe with Vandy presented by OvalYe segment each and every week. We're gonna have a fun little game, which we'll have more information about next episode. But we're excited to partner with OvalYe once again to continue to the chatter surrounding fantasy sports, especially within the Major League Rugby space. And we'll have even fun little stuff for our fans who possibly participate. We're going to be dishing out some free cards to people who participate in OvalYe. We might even be getting some merch to give free to some people as well. So if you want to join in on the fun, sign up for OvalYe. We have like a fantasy Ruckers league that we can start. We'll keep track of everyone. We're going to be participating. We're going to have a live stream at some point where we're going to pick some cards here coming up in the near future. We'll have more information about that, but it's going to be fun. OvalYe with Vandy is back, baby, and we'll
Let's
have
go.
a lot
Love
of
to
fun on
see
top
it.
of all that. Love to see it.
Love to see it.
All right, Maddie. With that being said, I guess it's time to send our little students off to go and continue their drafts and use the information that we've given to them this episode. I think we've had some good details here and
Yep.
have some people set the foundation, like you said, to winning the leagues that they're in. Do you have any final tidbits, Matt, for the people before we log off here?
Good luck. Godspeed. And live long and prosper.
Just all of the good homonyms there, right? Just
Yep.
great. Great, great, great. All right. Again, join us 6:45 p.m. Eastern time, Tuesday, February 4th. That would be tonight if you're listening to the pod. Love to have you there. Love to interact with the people for our draft. First time ever that Vandy, myself, and Maddie will be taking on those fools that are in the TFR League as one. The Power Rangers unite, baby. Matthew the head, myself the arm, Vandy the dragon tail, the third leg. Oh God, that comes in here to beat the rest of the TFR League. But until then, we hope to see you all there on our live stream again, 6:45 p.m. Eastern, Tuesday tonight. Be there or be square.
Because you're never around.
There you go. There you go. You're never around. Yeah, you're never around.
Because you're square.
Yeah, good, Matt. Great way to end the show. All right, Maddie, for you, for myself, Ryan, for Vandy, who's in the books studying for his draft. We'll see you next week, or hopefully see you tomorrow, and then next week for another episode of the Fantasy Ruckers Show. We'll see you then.
It begins.
You've been listening to the Fantasy Ruckers Show, bringing fantasy rugby to the masses, covering everything rugby from the MLR and beyond. We hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review, and be sure to tell all your friends. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, connect with us on social media at the Fantasy Ruckers. Till next time, this is the Fantasy Ruckers Show, signing off.